Hey, hey. Bienvenidos to episode 2 of This Latina Travels. Today we'll be talking about my travels to the beautiful rainbow nation of South Africa. So before I talk about my journey to South Africa, I have to tell you the background of how this trip was even possible. As many of you may or may not know, I'm a proud first-generation Latina. I was the first to graduate college in my family on a full 4-year scholarship. Thank you, EIP. And I was the first to get a master's. But most importantly, I am completely student debt-free. Take that, Sally Mae. This did not happen overnight. And like many who are listening, we've all had moments where we've had less than $10 in our checking account or had to max out credit cards because that was the only way. So sis, it's okay to have struggled. But what you do moving forward is what matters. When I graduated college, I thought I would have my dream job, making bank, living the life. Boy, was I wrong. I got turned down by so many jobs, I stopped counting. I was broke and had to move back to my mom's. And when I finally landed a job, I was still unsure of what I wanted to do in my life. Okay, now what? Is what I kept asking myself over and over. Thankfully, that job connected me with the right people and experiences, for which I'll forever be grateful. I'm telling you, it's less about what you do and more about who you know. So back in 2012, I worked for a nonprofit called Lutheran Social Services as a program plan coordinator for their summer camps called Youth Haven Camps. It was a camp that provided resources for kids and teens in the DC metro area that had HIV or AIDS or were affected by it, meaning someone in their immediate family had HIV or AIDS. That summer changed my life. I learned that my calling was to help others. Dara was my supervisor at LSS. Let me tell y'all, everyone needs a mentor like Dara in their lives. She saw things in me that I didn't see for myself. She motivated me, and as corny as it sounds, she believed in me when I barely believed in myself. It was Dara that told me that in order to truly help others, it was in my best interest to go back to school. Dara, if you're listening, thank you. A big reason I became the person I am today was because of you. And look at me now, working for the CDC. While I was working that summer with the camps, I would constantly get emails from study abroad programs that I was never able to do. Side note, if there was something I could have done differently in college, it would be to study abroad. Any college students listening, take advantage and do it. You won't regret it. One day, I opened an email from ProWorld. The subject line was something like, "Win a trip to South Africa." I honestly thought it was a scam at first. But I kept reading, and basically, I had to create a 60-second video about how I was making a difference in my community. And if my video was selected, it would enter a voting contest to the public. So I did. I created a video about my experience with Youth Haven camps. And I won. I won a fully paid trip to Cape Town, South Africa. I had never gone anywhere else besides Bolivia, let alone travel on my own. But this trip was something I couldn't pass up. Of course, I was super nervous and wasn't quite sure what I was getting myself into, but this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I don't know about you, but I don't know many organizations who offer free trips without a catch. ProWorld had just launched their South Africa program, which is why they had a contest to put their name out, aka marketing, and I got to go. So picture it, Cape Town, South Africa. July of 2012. This was the first time I was going to cross the Atlantic Ocean. The flight was brutal. It was so long. It also didn't help that I was recovering from a bad cold. But I made it. Our homestay mom, Patricia, picked us up. Oh, yeah, there were 2 other graduates who were on this trip too. And we headed to her house. In South Africa, they drive on the left side, and the driver's seat was on the right side of the car. This was completely bonkers to me. Again, I had never been anywhere but Bolivia and had lived all my life in the States. Our first full day, our program host Jacob picked us up and we did one of those big red bus tours of Cape Town. You know, typical touristy stuff. I don't actually remember much from that tour, but one thing that I can still picture in my mind was how in one area of Cape Town there was the rich, beautiful celebrity homes while another was filled with the town sheds. I'll talk more about this later. Another thing that stood out during my first day was the money. The money in South Africa is called rands. The dollar bills were bright, colorful, and each bill has an animal on it. The money looked dope. But then again, now I feel like everyone's money looks better than the US. My homestay mom was one of the sweetest ladies I have ever met. She knew I wasn't feeling my best, and the first night, she made me this delicious soup. Era como un sancocho. That week, we were going to volunteer and learn as much as we could about the nonprofit that Patricia worked at, called Zuzaki. More like she ran it. Zuzaki, which means to build, was located in Dunoon, a semi-urban area of Cape Town. Dunoon is described as a development program housing establishment for the poor near the Table View area. The majority of this community is poverty-stricken, illiterate, and unemployed, all the characteristics of a town shed. My time with Zuzaki taught me the importance of community engagement. Patricia was respected, known, part of the community, so people listened to her and trusted her. These relationships are key to any successful community intervention. I cringe when I think about how some organizations, especially from the States, think you could just go into a community and take over. It doesn't work like that. So without knowing, this trip taught me so much that I still use in my career now. During our time at Zuzaki, we were able to interact with the people, learn about their needs, and learn about how they go through life, even if they have just the minimum. My favorite part during my volunteer hours was working with the kids. These kids had so much life. It was absolutely beautiful. A memory that I will always cherish is when I was teaching the older kids how to step. For those who don't know what stepping is, you basically use your entire body as an instrument to produce complex rhythms and sounds through a mixture of footsteps, spoken word, and hand claps. Stepping was my favorite type of performance back in my college days. Shout out to my sorority, Chi Upsilon Sigma, Chi Hoop. Now remember, I wasn't in South Africa for very long, and basically I was on someone else's dime, so I didn't get to explore as much as I have in other countries. But I will tell you a couple things I did or wish I would have done in Cape Town. Number 1, take the train to Cape Point and visit the Boulder Penguin Colony. Cape Point is the meeting point of two oceans, the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic. It's also the lowest point in the continent of Africa. The train ride was beautiful. I literally remember looking out and feeling like I was on the way to Hogwarts. The scenery was just magical for the whole hour and a half. When you arrive to Cape Point, you do have to do some walking, so make sure you have some good walking shoes. When we entered the Boulder Penguin Colony in Simonstown, there was a fee, but it was worth it because you literally saw African penguins everywhere. These colonies are only a few in the world, so it's definitely worth your coins. Number 2, if weather permits, take the cable car up to Table Mountain, one of the 7 wonders of the world. Unfortunately, I went when it was winter, so the winds were really high and the cable cars were shut down for the season. So be aware of that. But every morning, on our way to Zuzaki, we would see the sun rise on top of the mountain, and it was just magical. It reminded me of the opening scene of The Lion King. Number 3, if you're feeling adventurous, shark cage dive. I didn't get to do this, but let me tell you why. 1, I was a broke college graduate, so my budget was limited and this wasn't included in my package. From what I remember, it cost anywhere between $120 and $150 per person. 2nd, time really was limited, and if I was going to do this, I needed not to feel rushed. So this is definitely still on my bucket list. As I reflect on this trip, I still can't believe it happened. I also reflect how social media was not present like it is today. But I honestly feel like that is what made this trip unbelievable. I was able to learn from a community that had so much life, but physically had the minimum. I saw one of the 7 wonders of the world. And the craziest thing about this trip, it was all paid for. Needless to say, opportunities are out there, my friends. You just got to take advantage of them. Here are some takeaways from this episode. Number 1, when one door closes, another bigger and better one awaits. I learned this when I kept getting turned down from job offers, and although Youth Haven Camps wasn't my first pick, it opened doors that I didn't even think were possible. Number 2, be considerate and open-minded when you travel. While some people may not physically have everything, best believe they are usually the happiest. Number 3, put that phone down and take in the beauty of your travels, sis. Although I may not have the IG highlights or thousands of posts that show every detail of my time in South Africa, I can still close my eyes and just picture that beautiful scenery on that train ride to Cape Point. It's an experience I wouldn't trade for anything. With that, I leave you. Until next time, mi gente, don't forget to leave me a rating, a comment, but most importantly, subscribe and share this with a friend. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions via email at thislatinaTravels@gmail.com or my Instagram at thislatinaTravels. I hope you are ready for this journey because I sure can't wait to tell you more about why this Latina travels.